Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, friends, and welcome to USA Global TV, and hello to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and our show today is Talking Heads. And if you're joining us for the first time, what is a talking head? Well, here at USA Global TV, we have a team of experts from around the world who have their own show for 30 minutes each week. Sometimes it's once a month, and they present on their area of expertise. So we are on a 6-section block with Mr. Red.Olaughlin, who is a co-host. He's a talking head, and he's also an elevated listener. This means he's someone you want to know, personally and professionally. He has a long list of accomplishments. What I like about him the most is that he is a man who leads his life with his heart. He's very humble, and you would never know he's accomplished everything that he has, and we're just so grateful that he is here today. So let's welcome Red.Olaughlin to the program. Hi, Red.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jacqueline. Always a pleasure to be here with you.
Pleasure to be with you as well. And I just am going to give you the floor, but I just want people to know that you have helped me with my first book, and you're helping me with my second book, which is due out shortly, Adversity to Awesome. And I couldn't do it without you. So anybody out there who's looking to get a book published, please reach out to Red. We'll be sharing his contact information at the end of the show. Red, take it away. I will be backstage and join you afterwards.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jacqueline. 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks ago, regardless, this is the 6th session. We start talking about the causes of disease, the causes of aging, and the things that we can do about it. What options do we have? Well, first off, as a disclaimer, I'm not a medical doctor, never have been, never worked in that field. I have nothing to do with pharmacology, never worked in that field. However, I do have a love of chemistry. That was my first love, long before I ever met my wife. For whatever reason, that subject really just sank into my soul. And unfortunately, I was unable to pursue it because I got an invitation to Vietnam. And as such, I came back, and I was too many years out of the industry in order to be able to get back into it. But I really didn't practice it until maybe about 2014 or 15. My wife had breast cancer, and I had been writing and speaking and going around the country talking on motivation, self-improvement, self-esteem, wrote a book on it. And then all of a sudden, my wife's issues with chemotherapy and stuff, I said, there must be a way that we can figure out what we can do to make this thing not so bad. And so I started researching, and I got involved with what is the cause and effect of things in the human body. And that's the genesis of what I'm doing today. I research the human body at the cellular level, and I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat a symptom, you'll always treat symptoms. So if you know what causes something, well, you stop doing it, or you start doing something different that you know will work. And so that's the whole, and I do this for a lot of different things, but my specialty is longevity. And I do a lot of speaking on age-related diseases, particularly Alzheimer's. And I've written over 40 articles on Alzheimer's over the last several years. And I'm putting all of those together into one book that'll be out very shortly. But one of the things we start looking at what causes disease, including Alzheimer's, inflammation at the cellular level, chronic low-level inflammation. Antioxidants will generally keep that under control. But sometimes our inflammatory responses for the stuff that's going on, we can't control it. The body has more inflammation than what we are doing to relieve it. And that's called oxidative stress. And that's when you have an antioxidant deficiency and some other lifestyle issues, maybe smoking, overweight, diabetes, half a dozen other things. But oxidative stress is, when you get to that level, you really need to start, because that is something in the brain. Those two things, inflammation, oxidative stress, are big killers as far as the neurons. Another cause that is linked to Alzheimer is chemical imbalance. Maybe you're deficient in vitamin B12. That deficiency mimics Alzheimer's. That's why gerontologists will give you a B12 shot to tell you to see if that is what you're deficient in. But there's a lot of deficiencies you can have. One of those is acetylcholine. Another one's lithium. Those things that can be addressed. And again, go back to the session that we did on chemical imbalance. There's a lot of information there. Excitotoxicity was another one we talked about just the last session. And there's so much in that one. I just say go review the presentation. That way we're not just picking and choosing something. But today I want to cover two topics that almost everybody that's heard the term Alzheimer's and read something about it. These are the things that people tell you. This causes Alzheimer's. Well, everybody with Alzheimer's has this. And those are your amyloid beta plaques and your tau tangles. And we're going to go into a little detail about each of those. Amyloid beta, sometimes you see it beta amyloid. It's all the same. It doesn't matter. But amyloid beta is a peptide. It has roughly 36 to 43 amino acids. And the peptide with 42 amino acids appears to be the one that really creates plaques and problems in the brain. That whole aspect of what causes Alzheimer's, whether it's coming from excitotoxicity or oxidative stress or chemical imbalance, at some point in time, it's going to get into the brain and it's going to react at different places. And it's a very complex chemical reaction that when you're going from a level of this particular molecule intersects with this one and that one, and then all of a sudden you end up with Alzheimer's. Well, the big gorilla in the room when you're starting to look at Alzheimer's, a thing called an amyloid precursor protein. It's actually a gene. 90% of it have what they call the common gene on that one. And this one controls neuron growth and repair. It's what we really need. But there are things called secrases. There's a couple of them, and they literally just cut that uh, big protein. It's a very large protein into small sections. And depending on whether they cut it with 36 amino acids or 42 or 39, these are your amyloid beta proteins. And those proteins in and of themselves are not that dangerous. But when you start looking at what happens, they are unfolded initially and they start to fold up on each other. And then as they form, they can form a dimer, two of them together, or maybe a trimer, three. But they basically start aggregating together. And depending on the level of oxidation and other things going on in the brain at the time, the the risk of Alzheimer's is moderate at best. On a good day, you may not get it. But as these things start to aggregate and they start getting sticky and they clump, now we start having these things called fibrils. And the fibril is there as a soluble molecule, but when they start linking together to each other, stacking on top of each other, then they become an insoluble molecule. And these are the ones that actually cause damage to the neurons. That's what we really call the plaques. Uh, Now, once we have plaques or they're forming or whatever, are there things that we can do? Yes, there are a lot of things. There are some things that doctors believe that a combination of vitamin D3 and curcumin. Now, curcumin in and of itself is not very bioavailable in the body. So if you're going to go out and buy curcumin in a bottle, look at the label and make sure it has piperine, black pepper extract on it. That makes it about 2,000% more bioavailable to the body. But a lot of them believe that that slows down or removes the plaques in the body. One that I like in particular is the green tea. The particular catechin in green tea is called epigallocatechin gallate, EGCG. They've done studies on laboratory animals and they found that the molecule, the neuron, that EGCG, the plaque, the beta amyloid beta plaque, sits right on top of the neuron as if it were a glove, literally just made for it. However, in the presence of EGCG, it changes the molecular structure of the amyloid beta protein just a minor amount. And so it gets there and it causes it to fall off. It can't hang on. So you end up with two situations. Number one, it's corrective if something's there. it falls off. It also prevents something from getting on there. So you have two situations that green tea is very beneficial. Now you can say, well, these are laboratory models. They don't work in real life. Well, we don't know, but generally speaking, it's the same disease, the same size, everything geometrically fits. So there should be an accommodation for humans, and they're doing laboratory studies on it, but it's kind of hard to get into a human brain. But with MRI, you're able to go in there and see exactly what happens. And they found that on some of these animals where they had dead or inactive neurons, the neuron was regenerated. Either it was replaced by a new one or it got new life with the EGCG present. So that was pretty impressive. The activity that goes on in the brain when you're sitting there, I mentioned inflammation and oxidative stress. Those are things that create a lot of problems. Well, you can take a lot of things to decrease that. Omega 3, particularly the DHA and omega 3, that works very well. Ferulic acid is another one, Ferulic, ferulic acid. Resveratrol, just like curcumin. Resveratrol, to be bioactive in the body, requires piperine, black pepper extract. Ashwagandha, polyphenols, green tea, a lot of things there help. Now, an article I read literally this past week, I'm talking about 2, 3 days ago, I spoke at a Chamber of Commerce meeting Wednesday, and I had written, okay, the day before. So Tuesday, I read this article, and it talked about iron, things we don't even think about much. Yeah, it's in our blood, but you need iron to get everything working. But if you have too little, you get anemia, you're more risk at getting infections. If you have too much, it's a problem. And that's where we have a problem with Alzheimer's because the iron causes oxidation. So if you talk to gerontologists, they'll tell you two of the key blood tests that they run to track is one is the iron levels, and number two is the LDL cholesterol. Now, LDL cholesterol is in every cell in our body. Our bodies make it. But iron accelerates. You leave iron outside for a while and it's going to rust. Well, a similar thing happens in our bodies. That iron causes an accelerated level of oxidation. So now you're having oxidation in the heart, the brain, the neurons, organs, every cell in our body. And that is not what we need. But it turns out that they found that iron affects a thing called an HFE gene, which regulates the amount of iron absorption into the APP, the uh, uh, just mentioned a minute ago, the amyloid precursor protein. So that APP gets its orders on how much iron it needs from the HFE. And again, under normal conditions, everything's fine. But however, occasionally, if you get too much iron in the body, then you have a problem. And they've seen the same situation when you start looking at Parkinson's patients, people with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, stroke, people with central nervous systems, Alzheimer's, people with that have a high level of iron. So now the thing is, well, did the high level of iron cause higher levels to get up to the amyloid precursor protein? And that becomes an issue with regard to creating more of the 42 amino acid amyloid beta proteins, and they think that's the right. Now, when you start looking at iron, when it gets into the body, it also creases an increased stress on everything. Now, one of the ones that I want to talk about in particular is our cereals, breakfast cereals. You know, it says fortified with iron. Great, we need iron. However, when you're taking in a large amount of iron at the same time you're taking in a large amount of carbohydrates, all of a sudden you end up with, I'm not going to say the perfect storm, it's not even close, but it's a significant storm of high levels of stress in the vascular, our bloodstream, and in the pancreas, where our insulin and everything is controlled. And so you're adding a dynamic that maybe doesn't need to be there, but it's part of our lifestyle. It's one of those things. But now you're aware of it. Uh, how do you get rid of iron? Well, generally through blood donations, because there's no way that our bodies get rid of iron. Other metals, yes, iron not. Another one is a chelation therapy, which is done. But those are the two ways to get rid of it. So you have to have it. You have to have just the right amount, and that's another cause that you should consider within the world of Alzheimer's. Let's jump to the last one that I'm going to talk about today in detail, and that's called a tau protein. And it causes a thing called an NFT, a neurofibrillary tangle. These tangles are the ones that get involved with our neurons and we start losing cognitive ability. The tau protein actually is part of a micro pathway. Think of a garden hose, and these provide levels, the direct path to the neurons to give them everything they need for food. It's a everything just normal. Now, your tau protein has generally two or three phosphate molecules. And then when something happens and it causes more phosphate molecules to enter that particular protein, now we end up with a thing called hyperphosphorylation. And that causes the tau protein to detach from the garden hose. And this is where we start having impaired glucose metabolism, other things that, okay, we have a problem with the phosphate. Now we have a problem with the glucose. In fact, some people believe it's only the glucose issue. And that's why a number of people believe that uh, diabetes of the brain is called diabetes 3. But in reality, yes, you have a glucose issue, but you also have this hyperphosphorylation. Uh, there's a thing called the PKN1. It's a serine threonine protein kinase 1, and it actually physically causes the tau protein to detach. And that detachment, whether the influence comes from insulin or comes from uh, extra phosphates that are there, now you have these detached tau proteins. And in and of itself, one is not a problem, two is not a problem. But enough of them, you get 1,000 or so of these things, and they start tangling with each other. And when they start tangling, now if you happen to have the amyloid beta protein that's there present, which is normal, it's going to cause more of these plaques to cause. And it's I wouldn't say it's a roller coaster ride, but it's sort of like a roller coaster ride of up and down, back and forth, in and out. A lot of things can cause things, and if we're only going to treat one, let's say a doctor's going to give you a Aricept medicine for Alzheimer's, well, maybe you're only addressing 1 out of 9 causes, and so it may take care of that one particular symptom for a while, but you're not taking care of the causes. So we're looking at insulin control. Well, we have the ability to control the level of blood sugar. We also have other things in there that we know can create a problem: acetyl L-carnitine, B6, B12. We need those in the brain. We don't have those, and we start having problems. But there are a lot of things that we can do to our health to keep everything, let's just say, as healthy as we can possibly make it. And those things are the gut biome. I think 6 months ago, there was an article in Life Extension magazine that talked about our gut. We have healthy bacteria in the gut and we have unhealthy bacteria in the gut. When the unhealthy starts overriding the healthy, then we have a major problem. Well, they're starting to see a connection now between the growth of the amyloid beta protein in the brain and the level of bad bacteria in the body. So, what can you do about that? Well, obviously nutritional balance is one, but there are two things. Number one is your uh, uh, got it right now. Uh, 1 second. Your probiotics. So the probiotics and almost at a blank, but probiotics are going to reestablish everything into the body. Now you could take antibiotics, which kills everything. Probiotics makes everything grow better. But you also need prebiotics. And prebiotics are like the fertilizer for your lawn. They actually help the good bacteria grow properly. And so those are things. Another one that they found that they think is also a constant creator of a constant growth promoter of Alzheimer is sleep. We have a certain level of sleep that we need to get each night. And if we're not getting that 7, 8, 9 hours, if we're only getting 2 or 3, or we're getting 15, our bodies don't operate the same. And the whole purpose of sleep is to do repair and make everything better again. In other words, get ourselves ready for the next day. And if we're not sleeping, we don't allow our brains to clean out the trash, the garbage that's in there. So we have certain functions that take place only during sleep. If you're not sleeping well, you're not allowing that function to go in the body. I mentioned vitamin D3 deficiency. That's something almost everybody's deficient in. And it's such an easy test to do. You can go down to the local lab. It's not very expensive, probably under $20 in most cases. Or you can look online and find low cost vitamin D3, and that will tell you. I would also recommend two other tests if you're getting your annual physical. One is called the C reactive protein. That's when your body is starting to become inflamed. I talked about oxidative stress. All of a sudden, that inflammatory level starts going up. It can actually be read. It can actually be measured by a C-reactive protein because our body creates it when we're stressed out from oxidation. That's a simple blood test. Again, probably under $40. I've seen them a lot more than that. But if you're doing a low cost thing, I think you could probably find it for under 40. But it tells you how much inflammation's in the body. It won't tell you where, but it'll tell you how much. Another one's homocysteine. The heart and the brain are very well connected with each other. You start having a homocysteine level problem in the heart, chances are you're going to have some level of inflammation increase in the brain. So if our homocysteine levels are out of the normal range, again, another indicator something else might be wrong in the body. The other things are just what I would consider normal lifestyle changes. We want to be healthy. We want to live a long life. I mentioned almost about session one. There's two causes of aging. One is your human growth hormone. The other one is the length of your telomere at the end of your DNA. Well, both of them are affected by your lifestyle. Our lifestyle are those things like our stress management. If we're not managing our stress, everything starts going up. Weight management, we don't want to be overweight, obese. Smoking, don't want to be doing that at all. Alcohol, moderation. Everything is fine in moderation. Sleep, again, with that quality of sleep, not mean going to sleep for 7 to 8, 9 hours, but actually getting some decent sleep. Nutrition, you need at least 30 nutrients every day in order to meet the requirements of your body. So your diet is that's the food choices you have. Uh, Now, fasting is one of those areas that increases HGH like crazy. When you're a teenager, you probably have about 80, 90% of what you had as a toddler. When you're a 40-year-old, you're starting to get down near 50%. You're a 60-year-old, now you're down at maybe 30%. You start getting to my age, I'll be 76 this year, and we're probably down around 10%. You need something to keep that HGH in control because it was the control module of everything else going on in the body. So as that control wanes away because age causes you to make less of it, I think the easiest way to gain it is by fasting. You can also get through high intensity interval training, but not many of us want to do that or even capable of doing it. But fasting is something we can all do. I do a 72-hour fast every month in order to rebuild my immune system from scratch. Dr. Walter Longo from University of Southern California has had this on his research thing for a number of years. I read that 4 or 5 years ago, and I said I started doing it immediately, and I maybe missed 1 month when I had COVID back last year, but it's something I do every month. This month, I decided to start the first day of Lent. So on Ash Wednesday, I started fasting. And yesterday, I went off my fast. I had a little over 180 hours of fasting. Normally, I do 72 and make a decision. Do I want to do 96? Do I want to do 100, 120? But seriously, I have no effects whatsoever. My brain is clear. I actually feel a whole lot better. And literally, I chose to end it at 180 hours. I think I could have gone another 72 without any problems at all. But again, it's not one of those things you just turn a switch on and you fast. I have to think about it, serious think about it, for about 2 days ahead of time. Say, if I don't, then I'm not mentally prepared for it. But if I think about it, yes, it happens, and it happens really easily. But 180 hours, it's not that difficult. But don't start out with a 12-hour fast. Go to 18, 15, go to 20, go to 24, go to 30. Incrementally increase up. Maybe after 6 months, you can do a 24-hour fast. There's a thing called an incremental interval fasting, and that's literally 18 hours a day or 15 hours a day. You increase human growth hormone after 12 hours. So if you can go to sleep at night and wake up and maybe skip breakfast because most of the time it's a habit more than actually need. But fasting is so good in so many things. What else is good? Green tea, absolutely recommend it. Acetyl-L-carnitine, N-acetylcysteine, curcumin, again with the piperine, resveratrol with the piperine. One of the my favorite molecules for the brain is a thing called PQQ, pyrroloquinone. Vitamin C is an antioxidant that attacks the free radicals and restores normalcy to our atoms and our molecules in the body, because when the inflammation occurred because the atom was removed, vitamin C allows a donor molecule to go to that inflammatory one and calm it down and make it normal again. It can do it roughly about 6 times. However, PQQ, in the presence of glutathione, which is one of those things in our body, it can be reconstituted 25,000 times. So it's inside the blood-brain barrier, it's inside our brain, and it just allows you have an army with one molecule, army of inflammatory fighters right there, ever present. Now, two things that I find that I eat all the time that are very good providers, natural sources. One is your green bell pepper, and the other is parsley. Those two things are very high providers of PQQ. Another one that I strongly recommend to almost anybody is a thing called ferulic acid. And those are things that are not difficult to find. If you're looking for a good, really high quality source, I strongly recommend Life Extension Magazine. They're found at lef.org. They have all sorts of research there from their magazine. As soon as I get it, it's one of the first things that I pick up, and I read every article in there. I find it just amazing. They have, maybe for one article, they may have 150 references as to why each chemical reaction that they observed happened the way it did. So it's just not something that's, oh, coincidentally we saw this in a lab. No, they actually have the evidence there. And that's the other part that I like. And I believe today that's going to conclude my series on aging and the options we have to make ourselves look younger and feel better and last a lot longer without any higher risk of age related diseases down the road. And Dr. Jacqueline, I am back to you.
Red, well done. And congratulations on that fast. That is, what is that, 7+ days?
About a little over 7.5 days. I
That is
started late. I
miraculous.
started late on Mardi Gras night, so about 11 p.m. Had my last glass of wine, and then so I had to count everything from that last glass of wine to the next 11 p.m. to the next 11 p.m. So by the time the next day came around to 11 a.m., I had my 180 hours, and I said, "Okay, fine, I'm gonna have something," and I did.
Can you share with us what was your go-to to eat? Was it a big
Oh,
pizza? No.
no. Actually, I had almost all protein. I had scrambled eggs, bacon. I had with that sautéed red bell pepper, onion, and mushrooms, and I had blueberries and raspberries, and I had blood orange juice, you know, blood orange, anyway, freshly squeezed blood orange juice, and that was what I had. And then later on that night, I had salmon and some onions and mushrooms, and that was about it for a meal. Just and again, I'm looking at the size, a very small size, about the size of a deck of cards for a piece of salmon, and again about the same size for whatever else I have on the plate. And as you well know, my plates are salad plates. They're not the big ones. They're the small salad plates because I'm looking for portion control. And if you're trying to do portion control on a big plate, you got a little bit I need to add some more to that. But if you have a small plate and you're filling up half the plate with, then it looks like, oh, I'm getting a lot of it. So that's what I do is I use small plates. There's another thing in nutrition called caloric restriction where you take less calories than what you need, about 30% less. And when you feed animals, even down to the microscopic ones, less food, about 30% less, they live 30-40% longer, and they have less aging problems, whether it's a dog, a rat, it doesn't matter. They live longer, they're healthier on less calories per day. Interesting.
That's very interesting. I think it's also interesting if you use a salad plate and you just go this way instead of this way. I want our audience to know that while you were fasting for a week plus, you and I met several times, and I have to say you were sharp as can be. I didn't notice anything that, oh my gosh, I wish he'd eat something. He looks really tired. No, you were full of life. You were your mind was functioning at a very high level, and you seemed very happy.
I was sleeping well. I had a couple times when I was out not exercising. I was working in the yard, bending over, clipping things off, and I had to come in and just take a break. I'd take a break outside, have some iced tea, unsweet, and okay, work some more, take a break. And then after about an hour, hour and a half, I said, I just need to come inside and just cool down. I think it's about 80 degrees outside here in Houston that day. The next day I went out and I didn't have near the same problem, sweated up a storm just like I did the day before, but I didn't have the same level. So I was able to do a lot of activity. Now, could I have gone out and run a dozen 100-yard dashes? Probably not, because my glycogen levels and my muscles were gone. I didn't have anything in there to feed them. But you do have enough of the fat that you're working on. And interestingly enough, since last Wednesday, I've lost 3.5 inches around my gut. Uh,
Ooh, that's
so
amazing.
that so I'm burning fat because I'm not eating anything with sugar, carbohydrates. And so yeah, I've lost a dozen or so pounds. But to me, I'm not looking at losing weight as much as I'm losing inches. Yeah, I went crazy last Thanksgiving and ate more stuff and kept going all the way through Christmas. I think it was probably that rebound from having COVID and not doing anything. Lost a little bit of weight, and I just put it weight back on. So yeah, I'm as guilty as anybody else. But yeah, I know, don't do what I do, etc. But again, I knew this was coming. I knew I was going to fix it, and so I said, okay, fine. I'll just get there and do everything at one time, and be much more conscious of it. And it's not what you're doing, it's the consistency in what you're doing. So now I have another reset, and next month I'll do another 72-hour, 100, I don't know. I don't think I'll do another 180-hour fast. Maybe in 6 months I'll do another, maybe do 200, 240, I don't know. But at that point in time, I'll have a chance to compare. And right now, I'm planning on going downstairs and having some lobster bisque with salmon and maybe a salad. I'm not sure, but I'll have something else with it. And then we go down to Corpus the day after. So when I come back on Monday, then I'm going to be back on my salads and everything else that I preach all the time. But it's just too many things going on right now. Yes, I have excuses just like everyone else, but I also have it slated. I know it's going to happen, and so Monday I'm going to be back on my absolute total health regimen, and continuing to monitor the inches lost. Yeah, I'm not too concerned about the pounds. I'm really concerned about the inches. That's really where I want to lose it.
Well, I think it's unheard of what you've accomplished, and you deserve to go and celebrate and take a break, because otherwise, what's it all for, right?
Absolutely. No fun is no fun.
Yes. Well, I live vicariously through you. I am not committing to fasting. I love to see how it's affecting you, and you're spot on all the time.
Thank you, Dr. Jacqueline.
Red, I'm going to spotlight you, and if you can share with people how they can reach you and who you would like to contact you.
Let's talk about how they reach me. Two good way email. That's my preferred way. Two good ways to reach me is at red.olaughlin.com. I'll go real slow. Red like the color. See my hair? Red@red.olaughlin.com. And that O'Laughlin is OLAUGHLIN. So red.olaughlin.com is my website. Red@red.olaughlin.com. I can reach. Red.olaughlin@gmail.com is another way to reach me. Again, OLAUGHLIN. And what do? I am really good at speaking on the causes of diseases, particularly anything dealing with longevity. But I cover other things, some simple, how do you get more calcium into the bones? There's just a lot of topics that I've written 1,400 blogs, probably 1,300 of them on various aspects of health and wellness. I got almost 1,000 articles, original content articles on LinkedIn. Most of those have to deal with some aspect of health and wellness. I think about 350, 400 of them are dealing with COVID. But if there's a topic that you think I might be able to help you with, give me a call, give me a buzz. Other than that, I publish books. I'm really good at it. I've done one for Dr. Jacqueline. I'm getting ready to do her second one. And if you have a book idea, again, contact me and we'll talk about it. More than happy to answer any question you might have on that. Back to you, Dr. Jacqueline.
Thank you, Red. Always so much fun and so interesting. I have to admit, though, I would like the Cliff Notes for Dummies on some of the things that you share. You are definitely an amazing researcher and a great presenter. So thank you so much.
Well, my book on Alzheimer's hopefully will be out in the next month or so. I have all of my articles in there. I have a couple of the parts to tweak and add up, and it's ready to publish. So hopefully on this show in the very, very near future, I'll be announcing, here's my latest book on brain health and Alzheimer's. And everything we've talked about from the beginning of session number 1 through session number 6 will be in that book.
Outstanding. That'll be very exciting. And I want our audience to know that we are actually meeting for your Talking Head section here at our new day and time. We were Monday, and we are now Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time.
And that corresponds to our Wise Ones that was an hour previous. And so I'm back to back on sessions with Dr. Jacqueline, and it doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, thank you, my friend. You enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll close out the show.
I shall do my best.
All right, thanks.
Bye now.
Wow, that was so much incredible information. If you missed any of it, you want to hear it again, go over to our YouTube channel. This show will be under our Talking Heads playlist. And if you'd like to be a talking head, we're looking for 1 or 2 additional talking heads. You must have 5 years experience in your field. You must be an excellent presenter, very likable, and have a big following of people who see you as an expert in your field. You can contact me directly on my website at usaglobaltv.com. All right, for those of you who are not aware, in addition to my running this platform, I also run drjacqueline.com, and I am a certified life and career coach, certified meditation teacher, and a certified yoga instructor, and I teach people how to listen. So if you would like to learn how to listen, take your listening skills to the next level, you can be part of our elevated listening community. And after taking a couple of our courses and getting certified, you can be on our television show, The Listening Mentor. So please go over to drjacqueline.com/join. You can see that right there. And coming up next week is The Power of Listening Part 4, the transition, facing the shadows of ourself. What does this mean? As we transition from an egocentric world to a heart-centric world, what do we do in between? Joining me for this course will be Madeline Chan, the international award-winning singer, songwriter, producer, and she is my vocal coach. These are some of the other courses that we offer: the Power of Listening foundational courses, the Power of Music, Voice, and Listening, and the Speaking to Be Heard, and also Intuition of the Heart. So you can go over to my website, drjacqueline.com, and you can learn more there. Finally, the last thing is my new book, as Red alluded to, Adversity to Awesome. This is a compilation of chapters from myself and other authors about their adversity and how it impacted their life and what they're doing today to help other people. So you can pre-order today on Amazon. Just go to my name, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, or put in Adversity to Awesome, and the paperback copy will be available April the 4th. All right, there are all the announcements I have for today, and that was our last show for today. We will be back tomorrow with a full programming, live streaming all day. We live stream from Monday through Friday. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go over to usaglobaltv.com, book your session. All right, thank you, everyone. God bless you. Take care. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow.